Hey, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is June 1st, halfway through the year, June 1st, Monday. This episode is brought to you by McGuire Harley Davidson, the best sponsor, man. Been here over a year, McGuire-HD.com. Check them out online. If you live up in the Northern California Bay Area, get your Harley at McGuire Harley Davidson. They're at 93 First Avenue North, Pacheco, California. Two-wheel experts, family-owned dealer. The best I've been in, man. You got to go to this place. Awesome showroom, super cool employees, great service department. Maybe you need some tires, brakes, whatever for your bike. You want to customize it with some chrome? Get in there or call them up and order a shirt. Say, I'm a Del Razor. I want to support McGuire Harley. And get a shirt. Call my boy Ryan, 925-945-6500. Those guys are big comedy fans, too. Come to all my shows when I'm in San Francisco. They got an excellent selection of used motorcycles. So get on it. McGuire Harley Davidson. Also follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Great guys. Rock and roll. Episode of Let There Be Talk, where great guest today. I've got a humongous songwriter. If you listen to Bitchin', she called in a couple weeks ago and was like, yeah, I write songs. She's a friend of Tracy Gunn's. And we start talking. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You need to come in for a full episode. This isn't just a phone call episode, you know. I mean, this woman has wrote some iconic smash hits. Let me tell you, if you know any Tina Turner, she wrote a lot of those hits. She wrote Simply the Best. She wrote Better Be Good to Me. Better Be Good to Me. She wrote Ragdoll for AEROSMITH, one of my favorite AEROSMITH songs. That's why you're hearing it right now. She worked with John Waite. She's worked with Kiss. Just go to her website and see. It's insane how many people she's worked with and how many hit songs she's had. She's just got inducted into the Songwriter Hall of Fame in 2013. I mean, let me tell you, I wrote songs. It is fucking hard. And then to write hits, most people, if they do have a hit song, like, you know, the old one-hit wonder, it was by luck. Not this woman, though. She knows how to write a hit song. She's got a workshop she's doing this summer. If you want to fire up a little workshop and you're an advanced songwriter and you want to learn how to get better, listen to this episode, man. I mean, she breaks down the business, how you get paid, how you get ripped off, everything about it. She also talks about meeting Tina Turner the first time and hanging with AEROSMITH. What a great rock and roller to have on Let There Be Talk today. So enjoy it. Her name is Holly Knight, and she's super fucking cool. I love her. Great woman, man. Great woman. Before I get into the episode, just want to tell you a couple great shows I have coming up. If you live in Los Angeles this week, it's an honor. I'm going to be on the Meltdown show. This is the hottest show in L.A., It has been for the last, 5 years. Jonah Ray was a guest on my podcast. He is also a friend of mine. He has a record company now. He's putting out Comedians Records. He loves vinyl. He loves music. His episode was fantastic. He grew up in Hawaii. That's kind of weird. It's not weird, but you don't meet people that grow up in Hawaii. It's like me. I was born in Yosemite. You don't hear that? Anyway, started the little Meltdown show in a comic book shop years ago, and now it's I can't talk today. It's fucking huge. You might have seen it on Comedy Central. They got their own series. They just shot the second season. So it's going to be insane. doing the Meltdown. I'm fired up. That's Wednesday night, the 3rd. Get there at 8 o'clock. It always sells out, so I would probably buy a ticket online. They got a secret guest coming. I don't know who it is, but I do know that Gerard Carmichael's on it, one of my good friends, and I love that guy. So that's Wednesday, and then let's see. Oh, if you live in Chicago this Saturday, Chicago, we got to get a pop. It's hot out. We got to get a pop. Chicago pop. Go see Mark Maron. He's doing 2 shows at the Vic, and he is taping them for his new special. So go out there, Chicago. Go see that. Be part of Maron's special. That's fucking cool. Also, Vegas, end of the month. I'm going to be out there with Jay Moore on the 26th and the 27th. And here's something really cool. Just added this. I got a brand new show at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room. It's going to be one night only, called Distortion. It's at 10 o'clock, June 17th. Get a ticket, $10. Me and Jim Florentine and a surprise guest. We'll do stand-up comedy, and then we'll talk rock and roll on a live podcast recording. June 17th. Go to comedystore.com. Get your tickets or laugh stub. Distortion, June 17th, 10 p.m. Jim Florentine and I. How great was Florentine on Louis? Did you see that? The season finale? He was awesome. And the episode was awesome. And those last 2 Louis episodes, I think it's 8 and 9, called The Road, were haunting. If you're a comedian, he captured the feel. I don't know how he did it, how you feel lonely on a fucking TV show, but I could feel for him. I was like, I know. I mean, I don't know what he's going through, but I'm sometimes on the road and you're out there and you're like, it can get dark. And man, those episodes feel dark. I love it. Thank you, Louie. And also the great Jim Florentine from That Metal Show. Hey, Jim Florentine here from That Metal Show. Good friend of mine. I love Jim Florentine. I guess that's about it, except for one big thank you to one of the best people on the planet, Mr. Eric Griffin, for having me at Brea Improv all last weekend. What a great weekend. That guy has been so damn good to me. And I hope to be able to pay him back one day. You know, he's an awesome friend. And every time he works in California, he has me feature for him, and I just love him and all his success on Workaholics. He's going to be my guest tomorrow on Tom Green's show when I not co-host, but take over the host duties. If you want to hear Eric Griffin and I on the Tom Green show tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, you can watch it live on tomgreen.com. You can call in, you can Skype. Call in, ask Eric questions, Mr. Montez from Workaholics, and thank you, Tom Green, for having me guest host while you're out of town. It's an honor, and I love your show, and it's just great to do. The people that call in are big comedy fans, so it's rocking. And, I get to talk to a lot of Canadians. I love Canada. I'll be up there July 17th and 18th with Brian Redband. Do not miss this. This is going to be good, Toronto. We're going to have a little live podcast and rock and roll circus. And also, one last thing I can't help but say, please get tickets, Denver, to see me headline my first time at the Comedy Works, June 30th through July 3rd. That's a 4th of July weekend. But you know what? Fuck it. Bring your fireworks. We'll light them off inside the club. Light the candles. All right, guys. I love you. Keep subscribing. Email me, DeanDelRey@Yahoo. If you want to donate to the podcast or just say hi or talk rock, whatever. I love all you guys. Keep the reviews going on iTunes. And here she is, Miss Holly Knight. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Got a great guest today. Super songwriter, right? Holly Knight, right? I mean, look at all the songs you fucking wrote. You got to keep this up close. That's the only rule. There you go.
Pretend I'm eating it.
I better say it's a mic, so they don't think it's.
When I'm doing vocals in a studio, I always tell them, like, just pretend you're eating it. Yeah, right.
But you
Well, you don't
touch
need
it.
You don't need to
with your
eat it. Let's go through this.
I already
real quick.
had breakfast, so it's okay.
Let's go through this while the listeners, so we can tell the level of songwriting. Okay, you wrote for Pat Benatar, Tina Turner, AEROSMITH, Rod Stewart, John Waite, Hart, Lou Gramm, Divinyls, Cheap Trick, Paul Stanley. I mean, tons, right? Kiss, Ace. Did you write with Ace?
I never wrote with Ace, but I know him pretty well from, back in the 80s, and he was the most fun of all the guys, And
Of course.
He did a version of Hide Your Heart, and I like his version so much better than Kiss's version.
Right. Now, let's get into this, because I played music 25 years, and I wrote songs all my life. I mean, these is like some of the shitload of hits you've had. You did Tina Turner's The Best, but there's another one I saw you wrote for Tina Turner that I like too, on the same record.
Was it, on the same record?
I think so.
Well, she's cut 10 of my tunes, but Better Be Good to Me
Yeah,
was
Better Be Good to Me.
That was
I
on the
love that
Private
one.
Dancer record.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw the Private Dancer tour, Oakland Coliseum, with
Amazing,
my mom.
right?
Yeah, she was fantastic. And that record, Private Dancer, at that time you had Bowie, Let's Dance, and you had that record she had. They were kind of the same era, and
That's
they were
right.
both humongous, and they both did Oakland Coliseum outdoors, the baseball park. So, like a day on the green. But I wanted to get into, did you grow up in L.A.?
No, I'm a New Yorker.
Oh, you are?
Native New Yorker, right in Manhattan.
Wow. And then how do you move out here and get your music start?
Well, I left home really young, right before my 16th birthday, and so I spent a few years just being a gypsy, and I lived in Seattle for a year. I lived in Boston for 2 years.
What, you ran away?
I ran away.
Why?
I'm a runaway.
You are?
I guess I had that wild strain in my blood, and it's kind of a long story, which I won't get into.
You got brothers and sisters and stuff?
I have one brother, and he stayed home. He's 2 years older, and he ended up going to, Columbia and getting a master's, and he's a lawyer, and I just went the other direction,
Yeah.
But then I decided to move back to New York, and that's when I started getting more serious about wanting to be in a band. And I started networking. Like, I would sneak into concerts to the backstage. Like, I would go by myself, I would go to Madison Square Garden or something.
Yeah.
And when the guard wasn't looking, because it wasn't two people or a group of people, it was just me, so I'd just slip in the back. And then when I went backstage, I would just start talking to photographers and people hanging out backstage, and there'd always be an after party. So that was a good way to network. And
Were you like a groupie, or were you
no, no way.
No.
I was a fan,
Right.
but there was no way I was gonna, drop my pants for them or anything.
Right. Really?
No,
I
I felt like I was a peer. I mean, I was dating rock stars.
Yeah, there you go.
I started dating rock stars.
Who was the big one, first big one?
It's kind of embarrassing.
Who was it?
It was Paul Stanley.
No, that's not makeup era.
Yeah.
What, like
They still had the makeup on. I actually dated him before I actually saw them live.
Now, let's get into that for a minute, because that's incredible. What I always ask people this, like, Gene worked with Van Halen and stuff. Mm-hmm. What years are we talking? 70s?
No. I'm not that old. Come on.
I don't know.
Well, we're talking early 80s.
Oh, Creatures of the Night, then.
Yeah. Well, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I met some people that were South African at a club called Trax, and they were trying to put a band together, and they called me up at midnight one night, and they said, "Do you want to come down and jam in our loft?" I said, "Sure," thinking, it was going to be the next day or so, but they were like, "No, come down now."
Yeah.
So, I got on a train, and
Sounds like a Coke jam.
It's
right.
Actually, I don't know if we were quite. It was quite that popular at the time. That came later.
Right.
Not much later, but so I went down and I jammed, and they called me up and they said, or no, they didn't call me up. They told me right there, "We want you in the band." And that was my first band, Spider.
Uh-huh.
And what happened was, because there were three South Africans, they were friends with this producer, Eddie Kramer.
I know Eddie Kramer.
Right, another South African, right?
Right.
And
he did all the
Hendrix.
Hendrix.
Yeah.
All kinds of great records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was about to do Ace Frehley's solo record. You remember all four of them did solo records, and they all kind of looked the same on the
79.
covers? Was that 79?
I think so. It's like right before
God,
Dynasty.
You're good.
Well, right around the...
Maybe I am that old.
Yeah,
Jesus.
you are. I mean, you're not old. I'm 49. But what I'm saying is...
I'm older.
The reason I'm getting into it is I think 80s, the last year, they wear makeup on the Creatures of the Night tour.
Yes. And then there was Kiss Unmasked next.
Right.
Which I played on. But so what happened was... Eddie was a big fan of Anton Fig, the drummer. Anton's the drummer that's been on Letterman.
Yeah.
Which just ended.
I know.
Like, this was so sad.
Anton played with Ace.
Yeah, so he played on that record. And once he played on that record, Kiss heard the record, and they were like, damn, his drums are like so much better than ours. And they ended up using him on like 2 or 3 records after that. In fact, they asked him to join Kiss.
Yeah.
And he was, God bless him. He was being loyal to the band Spider because we had just gotten a record deal, so he said no.
Who'd you sign with?
We signed with a small label called Dreamland, which was a record label that Mike Chapman put together.
I know Mike Chapman, yeah.
And while they wanted to have Eddie Kramer, I had heard about Mike Chapman, and I was like, this is the guy we need to get. This guy writes great songs, and he's having #1s all over the place, with Blondie and Nick Gilder, Hot Child in the City.
Great song.
And The Knack, and he was just...
My Sharona, did he do that?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't write it, but he produced it.
Yeah, right. Like straight all that in the 70s new wave.
And yeah, exactly. So he was the guy. And so they wanted Eddie Kramer. I wanted Mike Chapman. And I met Mike Chapman one night at that club Tracks, which we had become a band, like a house band. I've kind of skipped out some things, but what happened was Bill Aucoin, who was the manager for Kiss, signed us. He started managing us.
Wow.
Which was pretty cool. So, we were hanging out with Kiss, and he was managing us. And I remember Billy Idol came to town and was just starting to talk to him about management. And I used to take Billy around New York and just show him the town because, he was from England. And it was really fun times. And so then Bill... We started to record some demos and stuff, and we were looking to get a record deal, and we were starting to showcase. And then I met Mike Chapman, and I gave him a tape.
Yeah.
And for 2 weeks, he didn't listen to it. He told me when I gave him the tape, I'm at the studio, I'm at the record plant, and I'm recording Blondie, so just call me. And if I don't call you back, just be relentless. It's fine because I'm all over the place. So, of course, I called him every day for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And it became like a joke. It was like, Holly Knight's calling, and he'd be, oh, no, it's that Holly chick. Oh, my God, I told her, what am I going to do? Well, anyway, he called me up at the end of 2 weeks. He said, I'm flying home today, and I will listen to your tape, and I'll get back to you in a week or so and let you know what I thought. So, like 7 hours later, he calls. He said, I had to call you. He said, I love your band. I want to sign you.
Wow.
So he had this new label he was starting called Dreamland, which was distributed by RSO. Remember Robert Stigwood?
Yeah.
RSO.
They did the Bee Gees.
That's right. And a lot of those soundtracks, those really big soundtracks.
Yeah, like Grease. And
did he
also
do
Saturday Night Fever, of course.
Yeah. And then eventually the distribution deal went over to Polygram. That's always like that.
Now, what style band was it? Were you the singer? What style band was this?
It was original music. We were a rock band. But
were you the singer, or were you?
No,
keys?
I was just the keyboard player.
Wow.
And we had the lead singer was South African, and it was a she. So there were 2 girls in the band, and
kind of like Heart.
Yeah, we got a lot of comparisons with Heart. And I really, up until that point, I hadn't really taken songwriting seriously. I mean, I'd sort of doodled it, and I was always passionate about being a musician because I started piano when I was 4.
Yeah.
And I studied classical for 10 years, which I still love to play. I love to play classical. And I still have a Steinway grand that I've had since I was 11.
Wow.
It's been back and forth across the country.
Yeah, what'd you do with that thing when you ran away? You just left it there.
I did.
Yeah.
I left it, and then when I got older and started talking to my parents again, I got it back.
Right.
Yeah.
So you do. My point is, when you date, of course. My question is no good now because I realized Bill Aucoin's managing you. But what I'm saying is when guys come up, no one knew what they looked like back then. And a guy with black curly hair could come up and go, I'm Paul Stanley. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, and actually, they used to say how cool it was because they could kind of covertly go in and out to different places. Excuse me, I'm going to get my coffee over here.
Yep.
And no one would bother them. I mean, I've been out with some pretty big stars where it's insane. Like, I've been in Europe with Tina Turner.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
It's like holding court with the Queen, and it's like, you can't even take a bite without anybody
Yeah.
Coming up and asking for your autograph or whatever.
I always laugh. They say this one, and I hung out with some big celebrities and even comedians now, but they always say the same fucking thing. You're eating dinner, and they come up and they go, I don't mean to bother you.
Yes,
but
you do.
Yeah, what a piece of shit. I don't mean to bother you while you're eating. But could I get a photo? Yeah. Don't say that. Go, hey, can I get a photo? Because when you say, I don't mean to bother you, that's the worst thing I think you could say. It's the only thing
then they freeze. Then they have to brace themselves for what's next.
It's also just like a lie. You know what I mean? Just go, hey, I saw you. Can I get a photo?
Right.
But don't say, I don't mean to bother you, because you're fucking lying.
Yeah, because you really do mean to, and you don't give a shit. It's sort of, I also have this pet peeve where someone will say, I have a question.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you need to announce you have a question? Just ask the question.
I know, right?
Because when you say like my kids do that, I have a question. It's like, okay. Then I have to think, okay, what's coming?
So when you and Paul would go out, would people recognize him, or did he wear because they wore those bandanas when people were hip to where they were. They'd have a bandana over their face and they would boogie out,
Yeah, people knew anyway. I mean, at that point.
Knew, but they just didn't have the camera phones and shit, so they weren't grabbing it.
Yeah, well, we didn't have, let me take a phone,
Yeah, right, exactly.
A selfie with you.
But they knew he was Paul.
Not all the time. I mean, but enough people knew.
It's weird, right? That, imagine the... how long they had to hold that fucking scam, of not showing their faces.
Well, once they showed their faces, they kind of lost something, I think, and that's why they went back to the mask, because no one really gave a shit about the band. Well, I take that back. Their fans did, but I think their best music is their earliest stuff anyway. So,
like
a lot of bands.
It's just... that was,
of course, with the exception of Hide Your Heart or anything that I wrote. Right.
So you're dating him. You're in a band called Spider. You're in New York. Shit's going on. And what's happening?
Well, like I said, we got a record deal. So we flew out to L.A., and I'd never been in L.A. before, and we recorded our first record at it's called, I don't even know if it's there anymore, but it was called MCA Studios. It was in Glendale.
Yeah, I don't know that one. And Mike Chapman's producing?
Yeah. No. That was the fucked up part, was he was so busy with all the other acts that he had signed and other people like BENATAR that he kind of handed us over to his engineer, Peter Coleman. And Peter was more of an engineer, and he produced the records. And I was extremely disappointed about that, because I really wanted to work with him. So when it came around to doing the second record, I got really smart, and I thought, I'm going to see if he wants to write a song with me. And maybe if he writes a song with me, then he'll produce it. And that's what he did.
Wow.
And the song was Better Be Good to Me, which was the song that Tina Turner cut.
Whoa, so you had that song years before. Couple years before?
No, months.
Oh, months. So
before.
that's like 80s.
Yeah. By the time when that came out, I mean, she literally heard it 6 months later. And she was right at that point where she had kind of, as far as I have read, she had just run across the freeway to get away from Ike. And, she was working with Roger Davies, and she was singing in hotels, and, and he got her a record deal. I mean, she was doing things like, what is it, Dance Inferno and disco stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And he got her a deal, and apparently, I mean, the urban legend is that they were sitting in a boardroom and they were listening to songs, and then Better Be Good to Me came on, and which was pitched by Mike Chapman's, publishing company.
Yep.
And she literally got up and ran around the table and said, this is my song. I'm doing this song. Because it was all about, you better be good to me. I want to be treated the way I deserve to be treated.
Yeah, right.
So it was, and she very much wants to sing positive songs. I mean, she doesn't like singing the blues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's a rock chick.
So this is your first song you get on a record?
No.
What was your first song?
The first cut I ever got on a record, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to know who this is, but this is very cool. I think this gives me some serious cred, was Link Ray.
Link Ray. Whoa,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, the blues guy.
Yeah, and he did that song Rumble, you know? And he was he recorded one of the tunes that I had written on the Spider, one of the Spider records.
Right.
Then the second song I got cut was Change by John Waite.
Oh, John Waite, I opened for his band Bad English.
Oh,
Remember
really?
that band? Yeah.
I certainly
Yeah,
do,
with
yeah.
Neil Sean.
Yeah.
Good dudes. They had Dean Castronova on drums, who's in Journey now. And
You
of
know your
course,
stuff. You know your stuff better than I do.
well, my memory comes and goes. It's weird. Like if you asked me, I quit caffeine like a month ago, and my memory's fire lately.
Hey, have you seen that thing on the internet? It's called Lumosity.
Nope.
Well, it's this. I'm obsessed with it. It's sort of like a Mensa game, and you play it every day, and it sort of exercises your brain, which is like a muscle, like anything else. And I've noticed that my memory has increased like tenfold since I've been doing that.
Well, I quit caffeine.
Except if I smoke pot.
I quit caffeine and my brain is fire right now. It's
Isn't that
great.
great?
It's so fucking good. It's weird. Like 30 years, 35, 40 years of caffeine. Probably 40. I'm 49. I was drinking Coke when I was fucking 6, 7, 8.
That's true.
That's caffeine.
Yeah,
you know what I
probably
mean?
more caffeine.
Yeah, and then you switch to coffee. I was working construction and shit, waking up at 5, drinking pounds of coffee, and all my life, tons of iced teas. And
Have you ever tried wheatgrass?
I love it. Drink it all the time, but you know what's better than that? E3 Live.
What's that?
Try that out. It's like an algae from like a lake up in Oregon somewhere. It's incredible.
Really?
Yeah, and that
The
fucking
wheatgrass, it's kind of like revolting, like in a way, like for a second to me. Cause
I don't mind it.
Yeah, but you get used to it. But it's like having a toothbrush on your brain. It's just like everything just starts to sparkle.
Try E3 Live next.
I'm gonna check that
You're gonna
out.
love it. Okay, so you get this song, Tina Turner. You get the song on. Now let's get into some biz real quick here. You wrote the songs. Did Mike Chapman, was he part owner with you? Or did did you have your publishing? People don't understand what this is, but some people gamble when they sign a record deal. It's a lot like when people do movies. They take all the money up front. They don't believe in themselves. Some people go, no, I'll take the back end. Now with publishing, a lot of people will sell their publishing and they'll get a lump of cash and somebody will own it. And then they're fucked because it's on a commercial and they don't own their publishing anymore. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so what happened was when I was in Spider, first of all, Bill Aucoin had this theory that like the band should split all the revenue from the songs equally.
Oh, no.
Like he did with Kiss.
Right.
Which ended up being really unfair because, you know, I was writing songs that were then starting to get covered when I left the band. And he basically did it to eliminate any competition and jealousy, but that didn't happen at all because people, you know, the band members were still sort of like, well, you have more writing credits than I have. And it became very sort of ugly
or
and
they get
competitive.
lazy and they go, well, she's writing the tunes and I'm going to get money anyway.
Yeah.
And they don't write. So
Exactly.
it's two different fucks.
So what would happen is we would turn the songs in when we were getting ready to do both records with nobody's name on the song so that they would be very, you know, open and not be biased about, you know, picking any one writer's song. And they always picked mine and they were always the singles. And the band wasn't like too happy about that, which is one of the reasons I ended up leaving. So I went to Mike Chapman and I said, I'm thinking of leaving the band, and I hope you're not pissed because I know you've poured a lot of money into the band. And he was like, no, you know, in fact, he said, I'm dissolving the label because my partner, Nikki Chin, and I have finally decided to go our separate ways. And he said, why don't you move out to L.A.? And he said, if you move out to L.A., I'll sign you to a new publishing deal, and I'll hook you up with writers, and we'll write together. And even if we don't write together, if I'm producing something, you'll have an opportunity to get, you know,
songs on the record.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what happened. And in a lot of ways, he was one of the best publishers I ever had. But what I didn't know was that I had signed away my copyrights to him, which I'm just now starting to get back.
Wow.
Because there's a window of time there's a law that like after 30 years, if you wrote X amount of tunes in the 70s and 80s, you get your copyrights back, even if they were sold to another company.
Explain to people what the difference is between publishing, owning a song, and copyrights.
Okay, that's a really good question because it took me years to really understand that.
Yeah, because people don't know shit.
Yeah.
You sign record deals. You could have 100 bands, the biggest ones in a room, and you'd go, what kind of deal do you got? And they don't fucking know anything about their deal.
Yeah, well, when you're young, you're so excited, like, oh, I get to play with the big
tour
leagues.
Bus, tour bus,
exactly.
touring, we're making it, MTV.
Right, and now it's even stranger because they have 360 deals, which I'll explain that.
That's all in merch, touring, everything.
And I'll explain why that is, what the logic is behind that in a minute. But let's say you rent a house.
Yeah.
Okay, you rent a house. You're paying for the rental for a certain amount of time. Let's say you own a house. You buy a house and you own the title to the house. Okay, that's sort of the analogy with copyrights. It's ownership of your song. So if you sign a publishing deal and you give 100% or even 50% of the copyright, you're giving away half of your property in a way, like a house, you know. Whereas if you do what they call an admin deal, it's more like a rental where they rent the rights to license your songs for X amount of time, and there's usually a period afterwards. It could be 7 years, 5 years, whatever, that they get to
try to shop the tunes and make money on them.
Yeah.
Like commercials, other bands.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly. So what happens is I don't know what the amount is now, but whenever a publisher signs a writer, they have to give them X amount of money as an advance. I think back then for me it was like $12,000 a year, and that was an enormous amount of money for me at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I was trying to weigh all the pros and cons and thinking that, you know, I think for me it was actually a good thing because it got me writing with Mike Chapman.
Yeah.
It got me writing with other writers. It got my songs out there. But I wouldn't recommend giving 100% of your copyrights away anymore.
You did 100%.
Yeah, I didn't know it though.
Right, exactly.
And my attorney was telling me this is, you know, he never sat me down and explained it to me, you know?
Now, if you give 100%, are you still making money when the song's at number one?
Yes, you are, because here's the way it works. You have a pie.
Yep.
Half of the pie is writers, and half of the pie is publishing. And so when a publisher signs you, they can get 100% of the publishing if they want, which is 100% of the copyrights, or 50%, or whatever your deal is. Or if you're well-known, they might think you're worth signing an admin deal to, and that's like they get 10%, and they administer your stuff.
Yeah, because they know the shit's
Which is what I did later on. Yeah,
they know the shit's going to be working all over.
Exactly. But most of the time, publishers are not good at getting you covers. They're... probably the most they'll do is put you together with other writers, and it's usually not big writers. So you know, so they're kind of useless.
Right.
But I did it because I needed the money at the time. I needed the advance, and by the way, the advance is recoupable.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, let's say you got a ton of money and your songs didn't do anything. You don't have to pay it back. So it's kind of like an interest-free loan.
That's correct. I understand that. Yeah. That's why a lot of young rockers do it. They go, oh, shit, I can get a Corvette and fucking chicks, you know?
And they're not thinking ahead. It's like the buy now, pay later plan, and you pay for it later, trust me.
Your deal was 100%. So let's say the song made $1 million. You would still get $500,000?
Well, it depends. If I wrote the song myself, yes. But let's say I co-wrote the song. Now I'm down to 25%. Because let's say I don't own the half of the pie that's publishing.
Yeah.
And let's say I've co-written a song with Mike Chapman.
So that's a pie. And
I get half of the 50%.
Gotcha.
So I get 25%.
Gotcha.
Okay? And if there's 3 writers, then you get 33 and a third or whatever your agreement
I get it,
is.
yeah.
So I don't know how these people that sit down in a room, there's 10 writers on it, and they don't have the publishing. Yeah. And nowadays with Spotify and YouTube and everything, everything's for free. So it's really, really hard now for songwriters to make a living.
Right.
It's pretty fucked up.
Well, yeah, that's because records aren't selling. You know, so...
Well, they're not selling because they're for free.
That's right. I get it.
Yeah.
So... when the Tina Turner song hits, I mean, that's got to be some millions of dollars, right? Because that record was huge.
Which one?
Well, the Private Dancer record.
But the one that I made the most money on was Foreign Affair because I had 4 songs on that record, and The Best was on that record.
Simply the Best.
And at that point, I owned my half of the publishing.
How did you own half your publishing from one record to the other? Because it wasn't a long-term deal?
No, the deals were I don't even remember. It's been so long, but it was like 2 or 3 years, and then it would get renewed. And each time it got renewed, the deal got better. I started getting half my publishing.
Gotcha.
And so by the time The Best came out, it was an admin deal, and I was signed to EMI, and so I got it back.
Wow.
So years later, what happened was I started building up a catalog. And the catalog is your copyrights. That's why you want to hold on to the copyrights, because if you start to have hits and you own the copyrights, you can then at some point turn around and sell the catalog for millions of dollars, which is what I did.
Right.
I wasn't planning to, but then I was approached by a company called Primary Wave about 4 years ago, and I didn't sell all of my publishing. I sold half of it.
Yeah.
So I kept the other half, and I thought, okay, the songs are sitting there, it's kind of maybe not being marketed tastefully. So I figured I would still have half, and maybe that half would be worth what the 100% was before. Plus, I'd get a nice advance. Not advance, sorry.
Yeah,
it was a sale.
It. Yeah, yeah.
So there was no recouping on that.
How many millions?
I'm not going to say.
No,
that's tacky. It was a lot. It was pretty substantial.
I'm only asking because it's so funny how people don't know the biz. That's why I'm saying, because they think that people, they think Britney Spears writes her songs, or they think that maybe she's rich, but there's all these people behind it that are, of course she's rich, but I'm just saying people like Tina Turner, that record sold shitloads, but she didn't write any of the songs. So how does Tina get money?
Okay, this is how it works. You have what's called mechanicals.
Yep.
Which is...
I know what that is, but explain it.
Right, but it's almost a moot point now because people aren't really going out and buying records. And if they do go on iTunes, they usually buy individual songs.
Yeah.
So what was nice about, in the 80s and, before that and maybe even in the 90s was that you would write a song and the label would say, we need a hit. And that's where I would come in. Yeah. And the hit would help to propel the entire record. Exactly. So everybody that was on, so you would go out and you'd want to buy the record.
You're the motor of the machine. Yeah.
So that if you wanted to hear my song, you had to buy the whole record. And it was cool because it there was a lot of depth to the record and you got to really know the songs and you got to know the artists. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Think about this. Is there any Beatles tune or Stones tune you've never heard?
No.
It would be shocking if you heard it, right?
Well, that's
because
the thing.
We really got into the bands and the whole body of work.
Yeah, you buy Some Girls for Miss You, but then you go, holy shit, Whip Comes Down is amazing. Waiting on a Friend's Killer.
And it's a journey.
Yeah.
And you would read the liner notes, you'd read who played on it, you'd read who they were thanking, and you'd be looking at the names like, oh, who's that? That lucky person knows Mick Jagger. And,
exactly.
All those thought processes that go on when you're a fan.
So the mechanical is a royalty on each record sold because she's a performer.
Right. So as a royalty artist, she makes the lion's share. So there's a law, and actually I'm getting involved in legislation right now to try and change this because what happened was, as a writer, this was governed by the government and still is. It's a consent decree that says we're going to decide how much you get per tune as a writer. So back then it was 4 cents a tune as a writer. Now do the math, how many records you would have to sell to really make
4 cents a tune.
And if you were splitting it with another writer or other writers...
2 cents.
Dude, you had to sell a lot of records. But in that day, they were selling millions. I mean, if I were to add up all the records I've had songs on, it comes to like 400 million or something.
Wow.
Now, here it is 30 years later, and it's only 9 cents a tune.
9 cents a tune.
Right. And where everybody else, let's say you have a plumber, and he comes to your house, and you go, I want you to fix my fridge. He looks at it, and he goes, all right, I'm going to charge you $400. And you're like, that's ridiculous. And he goes, okay, I'll call my boss. He comes back, and he says, well, he'll do it for $300. And you go, okay, would you take $270? He goes, no. And you go, okay, I'll pay $300. That's you negotiating fair market price.
Yeah.
Songwriters aren't allowed to do it because the government, and this was a law that was made so long ago,
like 50s,
is saying,
40s?
Yeah, it's saying you get 9 cents a tune and you don't get to do that. So I'm involved in a group right now that is trying to change that because, I mean, how else? It's not for me. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But the people that are wanting to have,
9
careers
cents.
as a songwriter,
I constantly say to people over and over and over, and I've been an artist all my life. I've been on stage for 32 years now. And I constantly look at people and go, why would you go down to Guitar Center, buy an instrument for $5,000 to $2,000, learn it for years, and then hopefully find 4 guys, start a band, maybe get a record deal, maybe get a song out there, and at the end of the day, you get 9 cents.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you really had to sell millions of records. And then there's the performance revenue.
Exactly.
Okay? So performance revenue, and it's monitored by certain societies. One is ASCAP.
And BMI.
Right, and BMI. And then there's CSAC, and I think there's one other, but I'm not sure what the name of that is. So apologies for that. But ASCAP stands for the American Society of Composers and Publishers.
Yeah, I was on BMI.
What does BMI stand for?
I don't know. You know, something music industry. I don't know. I don't know what it was, actually. I just signed with them back in the 80s, and then you're just like, all right, I signed with BMI. Meant nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if you've been getting coverage, it would have meant a lot.
Yeah.
Because what they monitor when we say performing rights, it's things like going on tour. Now, let's say a band like Cheap Trick has a set list and your song's in there. They have to pay for that.
Yep.
You know?
Or jukeboxes.
Or jukeboxes.
All those.
Well, I don't know if sheet music. No, that's separate.
That's another deal.
Yeah.
But jukeboxes, any bars
TV,
that play music.
TV.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, BMI and ASCAP are gangsters, if people don't know. They'll walk right into a bar and they'll go, okay, so it's a blanket deal. You got to give us $1,500 a month. And they're like, what? And they go, yeah, there's no way you're having a bar without music.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then bars will be like, fuck.
I wonder if we get that money, though.
Well, I know. They're just gangsters because they know a bar, they know a ballpark, they know a football game, they know a hockey game, they know a club, anything.
It kind of reeks of like the mafia with the garbage trucks in New York.
It's the same thing. Every place has music, you know?
It's crazy.
And then you got radio stations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's another. That's one of the bigger revenues. Maybe not as much now because everything's been affected by the internet. But So if you had a hit, you would get X amount of money. Billboard was the main magazine that, and still is, that monitors sales and airplay. If you got to the top 40, you got a certain rate. It was a formula. And then if you kept going and you had the bullet, you got another rate. If you got to number 1, you got another rate, which was really big money. And if you stayed at number 1, you kept getting that money. So that was great. I've also had a couple of songs where I wrote the theme to the TV show.
Right.
And even
That's
though
big money.
Yeah. And it kind of sucked because the only way they would do this, and I've never done this in any other situation, but the only way they would use my song would be if I had to give them the publishing. And I did it because I really wanted to have a
What show
TV.
was it?
Well, there were 2. One was Angel, which was a vampire show. It was a spinoff of Buffy.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So it was the same producer. And that was on for 5 years. It had a huge cult following. And there was another show called Still Standing. And it was on CBS. And it had Jamie Gertz and that English guy. I'm having a senior moment.
That's all right. His name doesn't matter. That English guy doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed. You know, he's actually pretty well known.
I know, I'm fucking around.
He was in the Full Monty.
I don't know that movie. That's the stripper one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But so that was on for 5 years, and both are now in syndication. So every time they show.
Yeah.
So I used to do this thing like when my kids were growing up and Angel was on, like we'd be standing in the kitchen or something, and then I'd tell everybody, shh, don't talk for a second. I walk over to the TV. I look at my watch. It'd be 8 o'clock. The theme would come on, and they'd look, and I go, okay, good. Now we can eat dinner. And I just think, I just made like $800 or something.
Is that how much that was?
Well, actually, the one that paid more was Still Standing because it was on a major network, and Angel was on Fox, which at the time, I mean,
small.
It's a major network now. But they also have certain tiers, certain rates they pay. And then another way of making money is what they call sync licensing. So let's say you get a song, and this is actually still really very viable, and it's like it's definitely a good way to make money is if you can get a song in a TV show or the theme song, even better, or if you get a song in a movie. Sometimes you can make more money doing trailers. I mean, believe it or not, you can make more money doing a trailer.
Yeah, because trailers, people don't know, have temp music in them.
Exactly.
So you'll go see a trailer, and it'll be like, "Oh, ragdoll living in a movie," and then you go to the movie, and the song's not in there.
Right.
It's just trailer pop.
Because it's too expensive to go to the original artists. They just want too much money. And AEROSMITH, especially so.
Yeah.
And I only know that because Steven sold half of his catalog to the same company as me.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm in good company. They have a page. It's called their Legends page. They also do publishing and stuff. But on the Legends page, there's Steven Tyler, there's me, there's Holland Dozier, Hall & Oates, I think Steve Earle.
Steve Earle, dope.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm
Hall
the
&
only
Oates,
woman,
great.
so I'm like,
Yeah.
it's kind of an
Now, what
honor.
was the other woman's name that wrote like Angel and stuff like that? All those like 80s ballads for bands. I think she lives in Beverly Hills. Oh, no, that was the dude. What was his name? Desmond Child. Remember him?
Yeah, I know Desmond.
Okay.
Desmond used to open up for my band in the 80s. He had this band called Desmond Child and Rouge, and we sort of satellited around each other for all these decades, and we finally wrote a song together for the last Meatloaf record, which he produced.
Meatloaf 3, was that?
Yeah, Bad Out of Hell 3.
Okay, now I interrupted you though. Tell them what syncing is. So for like you said, you can make some good money if you like get in trailers and stuff.
Yeah. Well, with trailers, it's more instrumental stuff that they're looking for.
Right.
So, if you're like a guitarist, and we have a mutual friend that I think is doing this right now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And you just sort of create a vibe. You kind of see the trailer and see what they're looking for, and it's different than writing songs because it has to escalate and move and have certain punctuations with the film and stuff. But they pay pretty good money,
Right.
or a lot of times like the best. To be honest, is made more money than any other song I've written. It's been used for so many.
Yeah, I saw
different
like
things.
Winona Judd did it too. And
She did it.
There's like 4 people that did this song. Celine Dion?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Tina did it, and then it was used on HBO for like 2 years as their main theme.
Wow.
Then they decided they didn't want to pay anymore, I guess, because they were using Tina's version, and I'm sure that cost a few bucks.
Yep.
So someone ripped off the song and wrote one for the summer that went something like, "And it's the best summer ever" on HBO or something like that. But it was like the main theme for the rugby team in Australia. So it became like a national anthem, like everybody knows it there.
Wow. Now, so you get the first song on it with Tina, then you start working with the best. You do the best and 4 songs on that record.
Yep.
Do you start working one-on-one with Tina? Do you meet her? Do you hang out with her?
That's a good question. First of all, she's not a writer.
Right.
She's
Not
like,
at all.
No, she's written one song, and I think she got. I imagine it's because she wrote it when she was with Ike. And
Right.
Fucking great song, Nat Bush City Limits.
Wow. And
Yeah.
why do you think she doesn't write at all? Just
She's not interested. I mean, that's like saying if you're an actor, you're going to write the script too. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
I
two
get it.
different jobs.
I get it.
And I actually appreciate when artists like her or Tony Bennett, they're so good at what they do that's enough. And and God bless Tony Bennett, because he's the only person that when he plays live, he credits the songwriter. He always mentions who the songwriter is.
that's great.
which
That's
is
great.
really
Like,
nice.
I remember the first time Holly Knight brought this track by.
Yeah.
We were making out, drinking wine, and then she played it for me. Tony Bennett.
Well, I didn't make out with Tony Bennett or Tina Turner.
Yeah.
But
So do you meet Tina Turner?
Okay, so what happened was she did Better Be Good to Me, and I had not met her. And you don't always meet the artists that you're writing songs for. But what happened was she was in this movie, Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome.
Yep.
She actually played a character in there, and they wanted a song for the movie. So I was like, I'm going to do this. So I wrote this song called One of the Living.
They didn't call you. You just heard through the grapevine.
No, they called me.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. Roger Davies called me and said, do you want to write a song for her? I mean, that was starting to happen now.
Wow.
People were calling and asking me, to write stuff for them. And so I wrote the song, One of the Living, and he got it to her immediately, and she fell in love with it and said, I'm going to cut it. But she was on tour in Europe, and they needed the song by a certain date. So what we decided was we would record the track, and then when she came home, she'd walk in the next day and sing on it. So the next major thought would be, okay, what key is she going to sing it in? Because if we put it in the wrong key and she walks in to sing it, we're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So I said to Roger, well, we need to figure out the key. And he said, okay, well, he goes, I'm going to actually go see her in Europe. And he said, why don't you just record like 3 or 4 different like samples?
Yeah, just choruses.
On piano or something and in different keys and label them and I'll give them to her. And, you know, my scheming little mind, it was actually true too anyway. But I said, you know, Roger, if you go to Europe and the currency is different there, or you have even like a tape recorder, a Walkman.
Yeah.
Right?
210
right?
against
and
110.
And the batteries are sort of like maybe not running at full speed.
Yeah,
it's going to be the wrong
key.
You won't know. She'll pick a key and you'll have no idea. I said, and I'm really nervous about doing that. So he's quiet and he goes, okay, he says, go pack your bags. You're coming with me.
And then would you bring like your keytar?
No, I didn't bring any instrument. I figured they must have a keyboard in Europe.
Right.
I mean, I was just pumped because I thought I'm finally going to get to meet her, you know?
Yeah.
So we flew there and she came to pick us up at the airport in a limo with her road manager.
Wow. Wow. She's in the limo and there
She's
she
in
is.
the limo. And I remember I had black leather pants on and they were ripped at the knees and I had taken electrical tape and like taped up the knees and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was wearing like a black fur coat and black stiletto heels.
Yeah, you were like rocker.
Yeah, a total rocker. And I got in there and we immediately looked at each other and she asked me something really strange, which I can't even say on the radio. But
why? There's no censorship
okay,
on this.
I swear to God she said this.
Yeah.
She said, do you have nice tits?
But you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you know what I did?
What?
I just pulled up my shirt.
You showed him to her.
And I showed him to her. And
That's a crazy first question, right?
I know, isn't it? I was like so off the wall. But I think it was almost like a test to see, like, you know.
If you were a real rocker.
Yeah. So after that, it was like, boom, I passed.
That is insane. What about the other 2 people in the limo? Are they going, what the fuck?
I ended up dating the road manager for a while.
Oh.
So funny. So then
he saw him and he's like, this is my lady.
So then I think it took us all of 5 minutes in a room to figure out the key.
Yeah, you just whipped up the keys. She starts singing it. And are you like, fuck, that's Tina Turner, badass? And
I know. And
does she sound great like there, or is she small voice, or is it a big voice?
Are you kidding?
Well, I don't know.
Blow you out of the room.
There's some people also you see them, they go, simply the best.
No,
They're like, oh, wow.
She's the real deal.
That's dope.
All those people I worked with back then were the real deal. I mean, Ann Wilson, Lou Gramm, Pat Benatar, Rod Stewart, Steven Tyler. I mean, you know, come on.
Yeah, these guys can sing like fucking kings.
Yeah.
And all with their own style.
Exactly. They were all iconic.
Yeah, you hear one a cappella, you go, oh yeah, Steven Tyler.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, Rod Stewart, you know?
So I was standing there thinking, the perks that go along with like being a songwriter, like I would never have expected this. Here I am, I've been flown first class to Europe.
Yeah.
I'm standing in the room with Tina. They put me up at the St. James Hotel where she was staying. And then she says to me, I'm going to go on tour, start touring tomorrow. Do you want to come along for like a week or something? And I thought, okay, I have the time to do it. So I went on tour with her. And that's when I really, you know, we were going to restaurants and people were like in line waiting up to meet the Queen, you know?
Yeah.
And it was insane. Like we went to Paris and she took me to this designer's showroom and his name was Azzedine Alaya and he... everything she was wearing at the time was by this designer, and she was throwing samples at me, like leather skirts and stuff. I'm just in my mind going, "Holy shit, this is insane! I'm a songwriter. What the fuck?" You know?
Yeah.
So it was very, very cool. And then so we came back and we cut the track, and she came in and cut it.
Yeah,
and it's the opening track of the movie. There's another one called "We Don't Need Another Hero."
Oh yeah, that was a big hit.
Yeah, that was a great song too.
Yeah. Okay, so you're writing for Tina, and you're getting calls and stuff. Anybody, do you write with any stars one-on-one, like come by the studio and let's write? And who did you do that with, like Hart?
Well, I did that with Eros. I did that with Stephen for Ragdoll. They actually flew me up to Vancouver.
Right, they're doing the record up there.
Yeah.
And now you said this song was a little bit of a mess, and they were trying to fix it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how do you fix a song? Do you fix it with a chorus? Do you fix it with a bridge? You know,
it would depend on the song, and I don't do that much. I don't like doing that. I don't like walking in and messing with someone else's work that I wasn't there from the beginning doing. It sort of feels weird, like I almost feel like I'm stepping on them or something.
Right.
So you know, I had listened to the song for a couple of weeks before I saw him, and I said, I really don't want to change a lot, but I feel like there's no point to the song. It was called Ragtime.
Ragtime.
Yeah. So, I mean, out of respect to them, I didn't feel like, some people come in and say, like, well, let's change this and this and this, because they want to feel like they did something. And that's songwriting shouldn't really be about that. It should be either you do something and you make it better, or,
Yeah.
Like,
so you come in,
bother?
They're playing you the tune, and what do you add to it? The word doll?
Pretty much, and I changed a couple of other lyrics, but think about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, ragtime. It's so dumb. Ragtime.
How many times do they say ragdoll?
A million.
And everybody remembers ragdoll.
Oh
right?
yeah, and it's a great track.
I changed a couple of the lyrics on the chorus in the end, and he went in literally because he was in the studio with Bob Rox and Bruce Fairbairn, and the track had already been cut, and he just sang. I watched him sing the whole thing.
Wow.
Know? And then when he came and he said, "Well, this is what we think is." A fair percentage, which I don't need to get into.
Yep.
I said, absolutely, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. Now, did he ask to see your tits?
No, but
I can't believe it.
He didn't, but he did. I actually, this is funny.
Yeah.
When we had answering machines.
Yeah.
Some of us still. I actually still have one because I have a landline. Most people have cell phones.
That's hilarious.
But
this is Holly Knight.
Right. But so if you're in the other room and if the machine picks up and you're in the other room,
you can hear it.
It will tape the conversation.
Oh yeah.
It won't shut off.
Oh yeah.
So I have like a taped conversation between
phone
me
sex.
Nobody was telling me about a dream he had that I was in, and it was definitely X-rated.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You got it still?
I do, and you know what I did? Because I'm such a nerd.
Pressed it to disc?
No, I didn't press it to disc, but I imported it because it was on a cassette.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have cassette players anymore. I imported it into Pro Tools, so now I can just dial it up on my laptop if I want.
Okay, let's get into some other stuff here. Well, first of all, I want to talk about you wrote with Lou Gramm, and I
wrote with him. That was one of the circumstances where we wrote in the same room.
And what era is that? Is that his?
That was like the later 80s, I would say.
Is
like
it
80s,
solo
80s.
or Foreigner?
It was solo.
And what was his solo hit?
Midnight Blue or something?
Yeah, something like that. It was,
well, this was his big hit. This was his biggest.
You wrote his big hit?
Yeah, Just Between You and Me.
Oh, that's a great one, man. I got to tell you, I say it over and over and over. Foreigner is fucking unreal.
Right?
Unreal. Like, I got all their records over there. They're so underrated.
What's your favorite Foreigner song?
God, it's too hard to pick because is it feels like the first time. But then I also love, let's say Urgent,
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I love Urgent. But the early Foreigner, like Head Games and
Cold as Ice,
yeah. Hot Blooded. These records.
And then they had I Want to Know What Love Is, and then I've Been Waiting.
Yeah.
Think about it. They had so many
Those
hits.
are monster hits. But the first three records are some of the best 70s rock you've ever heard.
Absolutely.
It's just, and it's weird. You got this English band with a dude from like Boston or wherever he's from.
Rochester.
And you're just like, wow,
Which is a lot lamer, actually.
Yeah,
than
right.
Boston.
Right. But it's so underrated. They recently got inducted into the Songwriting Hall of Fame.
That's same year as me.
Same year as you.
In fact, that was like rock and roll high school reunion. And I've never been to a high school reunion because I dropped out after 9th grade, and then I got my GED like when I turned 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
But so for me, this is like a high school reunion. Only it's rock dudes because Mick
You're
Jones.
down at Nokia. That's where they did it, right? The Nokia downtown?
No, they did it in the Marriott Hotel, which has a huge ballroom.
Oh, I got you. I thought it was down there downtown. Okay, who's in it? Mick Jones?
It's got a huge theater in it, though, because they do like Broadway in there or something. So Mick Jones and Lou Gramm.
From Foreigner.
From Foreigner. Then Steven Tyler and Joe Perry.
Wow.
And then Bernie Taupin was there, and I'd also written
He wrote the songs with Elton John.
Yep. And
he writes the lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He actually is more of a poet than a lyricist, because what he does is he hands you a sheet of beautiful poetry.
Yeah.
But there's no meter, there's no hooks, there's no repetitive like chorus lines, so you have to make sense
you got to kind of cut it up.
Yeah.
It's so weird, like bands like Elton John, people don't know, or Grateful Dead, other people wrote their lyrics.
Yeah.
And to have that chemistry and not write in the same room a lot of the times.
Yeah,
it's so weird, right?
It is very...
Send a tape off to Bernie, and all of a sudden, he comes back, he's got Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah, that's what he did. He made sense out of all these sheets of poetry that Bernie gave him. And it works, it works for him. And so he was there, so I hadn't seen him in a long time. So it was like I knew all these guys, and I hadn't seen them in quite a while. So it was so much fun. And it was like a rock and roll year, because sometimes the Songwriting Hall of Fame, it's like a lot of writers. You have to have been writing for X amount of time, so they have writers that a lot of people haven't necessarily heard of,
right?
Or the masses. I mean, the people within the industry would know them.
So, where they give you like a trophy or something?
Yeah,
that's cool. And then there's a writer. Where's the Writer Hall of Fame at? Is there a place like?
Yeah, there actually Desmond is in charge of trying to get the Brill Building in New York City to be a formal, proper Songwriting Hall of Fame museum. But you can go to the Grammy Museum, and they have the Songwriters Hall of Fame exhibit downtown here. Right,
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's down there by the Nokia.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so...
They need to update their website, though. I actually went to look myself up, and they listed 2 songs. As the total extent of my discography. Which
the amount of songs you've wrote is fucking insane. I was on your website, and it's insane. You're looking at it, you're going like... A lot of people they say they're songwriters, and they wrote like 3 songs in 82 that got on some records, like a Quarter Flash record, a Sammy Hagar record, and then they never write again, or they wrote and never got anything again. With you, it's over and over and over and over and over, and they're all hits. Big, not all of them, but they're fucking great tunes, you know. So you wrote you wrote a "Love Is a Battlefield" for Pat Benatar.
Right.
What was that Divinal song? Wait.
Pleasure and Pain.
Yeah, great one, right?
That's like one of my favorites.
And then you wrote "You're My Obsession."
Yeah, which, by the way, and I don't find this stuff out unless I happen to be going to the movies or watching TV, but the last 2 weeks they've been pushing Obsession with this new HBO show called Nightingale.
Wow.
And I don't find this stuff out because what happens is once your song is published, anybody has the right to cut the tune as long as they pay you as a writer and pay the publisher, but they don't need your permission. It's only the very first time it's cut that you have a say on who cuts it. And if you don't like the artist, you say, no, I don't want you to cut it. But after that, so my administrators now, or whoever is administrating those songs, and it's really convoluted. There's so many different companies that have over the years gotten a piece, so it's like I'm never quite sure who to call. I have to call different people for different songs from different eras.
Do you have to chase the money, or does it come in the mailbox automatically?
I have a business manager.
There you go.
And then I have an administrator who's really brilliant at chasing the money.
Well, it's funny because I tell people I wrote songs and played music for years, and you'd have to fucking call these people, and they always say, our accountant's out of town for a couple weeks on vacation.
Terrible.
They just say bullshit like that, and you're just chasing the money. And recently I worked for a record company again. I did an interview for one of their bands for Sirius Radio, and I called fucking Capitol, and the check was supposed to be here 2 weeks later, and 6 weeks it's not. And guess what they said?
What?
Our accountant's out of town on vacation right now. I go, you're still using that fucking excuse?
The guy never came back.
Yeah, but
right?
my
he
point
retired and went off to like Tahiti.
My point is, you do TV or movies, which I've done movies and been on TV, and the fucking following Monday, that check is in the box, man.
Well, you're lucky though, because most of the time it takes 6 months to a year to get any money in. I never get paid right away.
Right, exactly. I'm saying it's so different, TV and movies. They pay you fucking immediately. With music, they hold your money till the last second. They go, all right, cut her a check. It's fucking crazy, right? And when you're a rock band and you're starving and you're getting these checks quarterly,
you're like counting on them.
You're going, goddamn, where's this check?
Yeah.
You borrowed all kinds of money from friends, and you're waiting for that check to pay them back, and you start over.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say another way that you can also make money these days. Let's say, like for instance, what's really big right now is unrecognizable versions of recognizable songs. So, meaning I just, like last year, I did a bunch of songs, and one of them was Love Is a Battlefield, but I did it sort of like very industrial, like Nine Inch Nails.
I hear that shit all the time. Like I'm at Chipotle, and you'll be like, this is The Clash. You know what I mean? And it's like this crazy different version of like London Calling.
Yeah.
You know?
And so then they don't have to pay the original artist, and they pay you for the master. So, I just did that with Love is a Battlefield, and I got licensed for a show called Deliverance Creek.
Did you sing it?
No. I have a project. It's called Story of O. And what it is, it's my band or my tracks, and then I always have guest artists on it. So this one was featuring a young girl. She was like 18, amazing singer called Sarah Skinner.
Right. And that's the stuff I'm doing with you, right? I'm fucking with you.
No, that's different.
Yeah. I'm fucking with you.
No.
Now, listen.
I thought you were serious because I brought a copy of that song with me.
No, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I said I would sing all your stuff in a minute. Now, this is my big question for you. I wrote songs for years, and I was on your website, and I see you're going to have a songwriting workshop.
That's right.
And now, I being a comedian and also a songwriter, I'm never quite sure if you can learn songwriting or comedy from a workshop, but I did go to a Paul Haggis writing workshop. It wasn't a workshop. It was where Paul Haggis, who wrote Crash and stuff, was speaking on what his process is. How can you teach songwriting? Can you teach it? Because to me, hooks come from some other fucking level. When I'm writing a song, it's so fucked because I'm strumming the guitar, and a perfect example is I wrote a song called Highway, and I'm strumming. All my choruses come out of nowhere. I've never sat down and went, this is the chorus. So I'm strumming, and it comes out, man on the highway, rolling sideways, all alone. And all of a sudden, I couldn't get that chorus out of my head. Now I'm fucked. I got to write the verses. Like, what is this chorus? But it came magically, and I take it. How do you teach songwriting?
Well, I think there is the X factor where you're either born with the gift or not.
Correct.
And you can't really teach someone to sort of be talented. It's sort of like it's something that you're born with, and you sort of learn how to channel it somehow, or you don't even learn. It just happens. Like people say, well, how do you do that? And I go, well, I'm not sure. And if I think about it, if I try to analyze it, I'll probably stop doing it. It's like meditating. Yeah. Like if you're meditating, you have to shut all your thoughts out. And I've actually done it where I'm able to do that. But the minute I think, oh my God, I'm doing it, then it stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
songwriting's
sort of a subconscious thing.
It's absolutely magic.
Yeah.
People don't understand.
It's like catching lightning in a bottle.
It really is. You sit down on the keys or guitar, and you're just strumming, and I swear to God, it's like someone throws it down from another dimension. It goes in your mind. You're like, oh, all right, here it is. Yeah, simply the best. Yeah, it's weird.
It's like you're being led. You're being pulled, and you're just sort of moving in a direction. And
my point is
that's the one. I didn't answer your question.
Yeah.
So that's the one part that I can't teach. Okay,
yeah.
But what I can teach is
formulas.
I don't like the word formula, but the craft.
Yeah.
The craft of it. It's like, for instance, I would imagine in comedy, there's a lot to be said about timing.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot to be said about your facial expressions and your body language.
Timing, rhythm, movements.
And those are things that are craft. Like you can't teach someone the actual meat of it, but you can teach them, guidelines that will help make them better. Yep. And this is a master class. This is not for beginners. This class is for people that are already songwriters, but they're not really writing hits, or they're not writing things that are accessible.
Hits are all about the hook.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, the hook is the thing that pulls you in.
I always call them the hook that caught jaws. When you hear...
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
I love that.
Because there's songs that have hooks, and you go, oh, yeah. But then there's songs which not necessarily are great, but the hook is so fucking big. My point, one of the songs I say would be Who Let the Dogs Out? Okay? It's a horrible song. But if you hear it once, Who Let the Dogs Out?
It's like Macarena.
Right. Yeah, or that one with the fucking the one the guy was dancing.
Oh, the Korean guy,
style. All this is garbage.
Yeah.
But there's a formula or a craft to that, right?
Well, here's the thing. For me, it's it's easy to write a song that's very artsy that no one's going to give a shit about.
Of course, we can. Like Tom Waits has incredible songs, and you and I love Tom Waits.
Yeah, I love him.
We love it. But
he's not getting on the radio.
He's not, and he's not trying to get on the radio.
He doesn't want to. It's like Todd Rundgren was the same way.
Yeah.
Like, or Zappa, perfect example. A
Absolutely.
genius that purposely would not write hits.
Absolutely. And then he has
sure
an
he was
accidental
capable
hit.
of it.
Valley Girl, accidental hit, and then he's pissed.
Exactly. Exactly. And, it's pretty easy to write, like, something that's kind of garbagey that's going to be very, very hooky. But what's hard to do is to write something that's hooky and good at the same time that you can be proud of. I mean, that's the thing that I try to strive for. I try to write things that
hits with depth.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the lyrics not being cheesy or embarrassing. And but there are certain things that I definitely can teach. And I have this little slogan at the bottom of my masterclass ad, which, by the way, can I just plug it for a second?
Absolutely.
If anybody's interested, go to my website, which is hollyknight.com, and all the information is there.
And that's KNIGHT for some people are like, I punched in NIGHT, didn't come up.
All these years I've always used
I know.
Knight.
How come you're not Knight? Like Holly Knight,
Well, I like using, like, Knight. It's what's that? Like, is it a synonym or an antonym? Like, I use, like, for instance, I have Night Life music, or I have Night Vision, or I have Night Club. I had for years.
But go ahead. So on the bottom of your masterclass.
Sorry,
I interrupted you. That's why I wanted you to get out.
I'm very kind of ADD, so I'm going all over the place.
Me too.
Hopefully, we have plenty of ADD people out there that
absolutely,
because we sort of tend to stay. You put all these files on the table, and then you just kind of roll from one to the other, and everybody's hoping they stick with you. It's really annoying to people though that aren't ADD, like they want to fucking kill me.
Well, I think it keeps conversations going because you bounce around and then you do callbacks. You know what I mean? We're going and then you go, Tina saw your boobs, then what? And then we go back into Paul Stanley.
Exactly.
Was he a good lover? No, he was. Paul was no good?
I didn't say a word.
Okay.
I said nothing.
Did you ever sleep with him with makeup on?
No.
Okay.
I had makeup on.
I know, but him with the star?
No.
That'd be awesome.
No. Yeah, that would have been much more pleasant.
So on the bottom of your masterclass,
it says learn like a pro so you can think like an artist.
Wow.
And that's a saying by Pablo Picasso that I saw, and I thought, that's exactly what they teach in art school. Learn all the stuff. Learn anatomy and how to draw hands, and then throw it out the window and tap into your own abstract thoughts, but keep your skills,
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that I want to teach that has to do with a lot of the things that we talked about today, like the
business.
Copyright.
Absolutely.
Business, how not to get fucked over, especially in this day and age.
Yep.
Oh, my God. And then, I'm going to be teaching, like, where are the areas that you can make money that's relevant today.
Absolutely.
Because, you have these people, like, in various teaching institutions, and they're teaching theory and all these things that are like...
But they're not in the biz.
Give you,
That don't mean shit.
Right, exactly. And
you need street knowledge with art knowledge.
And in fact, the colleges are not, they're not very nice to me because they consider me competition.
Yeah.
And they're also kind of like, those I can do and those I can't teach. Some, not always. I wouldn't say it's a universal law, but that's very often the case. And it's like you said, there's a teacher who maybe had one hit with like some band in the 60s or 70s, and now he's teaching how to write songs.
I've seen it with vocal coaches. They're like, I taught Tina Turner, Axl Rose, and, in the 80s, and you're just like... That doesn't mean shit.
Right.
Yeah, those guys knew how to sing. You didn't teach them how to sing.
Exactly.
You teach longevity. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Insurance, so how you go on the road and don't blow your voice out. And there is a value to that. I'm just saying that what I have to teach is much more. I mean, I have lots of great stories, so it's going to be fun. But I have a Pro Tools studio, full-on studio. We're going to be recording.
That's dope.
And I think...
You know how to run that shit, or you got an engineer?
No. Fuck that. I run it all because, I mean, I don't want someone in the room watching me when I'm writing.
Oh, you run it all, huh? That's dope.
Yeah, I run it all. I do. In fact, I get hired to do vocal comps. Like, I'll record an artist, and then I'll do all the vocal comps. But I still hire great engineers. I mean, sonically, that's not my...
Yeah, vocal comps are brutal.
Yeah, I love doing them.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah, I really do. But I will, let me put it this way.
If it's a good singer.
I was just going to say.
If it's a good singer.
Good singer, it's fun. It's like having a box of chocolates like Forrest Gump.
I seen a guy vocal comping. What's that guy, Third Eye Blind?
Yeah.
First of all, couldn't sing at all. Couldn't sing at all.
You know,
First
the
of all,
engineer should get a vocal credit.
Absolutely. He
And by
sang on the record, too.
They got vocal line. The same thing happened. I know on the Meatloaf record that they had someone come in and sing all the vocals so he could allegedly learn them. But then you have this thing called vocal line, and what it's really kind of. I won't say for a fact that I know this happened because I wasn't there, but I know on certain records when you have a singer that's not really a singer, they use this plugin called vocal line, so they'll have another singer come in, and then it aligns with the sound of the other singer's voice.
That's insane. It
and
grabs
digitally,
it,
and it grabs
and then it copies it.
Right.
I can't even fucking believe
That's
that
unbelievable.
shit, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm not against tuning vocals because I don't believe in having like auto-tuned running and the vocals running through.
No,
and all
no.
that. But
look,
sometimes,
I get it. I've done a magic performance before.
Exactly.
And then you're a little sharp on the
Exactly.
choruses because your ears get burnt from headphones.
Right.
It might be too loud all night. Or
what happens?
It happens. Your ears get shot with headphones. That's
Listen,
why I sing in the control room.
The best singers need to be tuned and stuff because, I mean, it's sort of like when an Olympian goes, on any given day, they can break the record or they can fall down. It doesn't mean they're not great.
Yeah.
It's a performance. It's a live performance.
You don't want to lose. You
don't want to lose the vibe or the sound. Like if the tone is right and the delivery was great, I'd go for that.
Oh hell
and
yeah!
Sometimes I'll leave the tuning flat.
Me too.
Or if it's appropriate, fix it.
If it's bad, whatever. But if
it's been
like
abused, it's been so abused to the point where it sounds so flat and perfect and digital that it's like it's
gross.
Annoying.
These people come in, they're super fucking lazy. They just come in, they lay 2 tracks and go,
and then they
I'm going to the club.
You can fix it. You can
just
fix it.
Fix that. I'm going to the club. And then they're like, big day at the studio today. You see their tweet, you're like, you were there 24 minutes.
They have no clue. They have no clue. And like I said, I've been so lucky to work with like really, really great singers. So it's a nightmare when you have to like Pro Tools someone that really can't sing. It is
disgusting.
It is.
Because you're like, just get the fuck out of this business.
Yeah, and some of I would say a good chunk of the biggest artists out there can't fucking sing.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
And they're just Pro Tool. And then when they play live, they lip sync.
And no one fucking cares.
You know what they do? They lip sync, but they have a live feed on the mic so that they can go, and then afterwards goes, all right, LA,
how you feeling?
Right. And so they're even
It's so gross.
More.
It's so gross because the track's like, it's like toxic. It's going perfect. And then she goes, ooh, Vegas, toxic, whatever.
Well, that was definitely one of the singers I was thinking
Absolutely.
of.
I don't call them singers. They're just dancers. They are not singers. They're not songwriters. They're a face and they dance.
Well, the problem is, and this is what I had mentioned before about the 360 deals.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, so it used to be that the record was the center of an artist. So you'd be an artist, you'd have a record come out, and then they would tour or they'd have videos. But the record was like the focus.
That's where the money was. Everybody thought.
And now what it is let's say you have, again, a pie, or you're in the middle of the pie is the artist. They're the brandable product.
Yep.
Because that's what it is now. It's product. So then imagine you have different, like, arms coming off of the circle, like a sun, or, the sun corona or something. And you might have publishing as one of the arms. Then another one would be merchandise. The next one would be touring. The next one would be like,
public appearances,
clothing
posters,
line, perfume, posters, and another one would be the record.
Yeah.
The record's just a piece of merchandise now.
That's it. It's a keychain with multiple keys.
Right. And because of that, when record labels sign artists, they say, we want to do a 360 deal with you. 360 obviously is, the degrees.
Yeah, the whole, all the money. All the money. You're touring.
Basically,
your
that's
public appearances.
We want it
your
all.
Perfume.
Because if we're going to put money into promoting you, it's going to cost us $1 million, and the only way we're going to get our money back is to make revenue off of everything. So, logically, I can understand that. But where does it put the people individually that are working on these things, like the songwriter or the session guys or the musicians or the engineer or, the mixer, all the people that work so hard just to make one little portion of
they're
this.
just this little piece of the pie now.
They don't get, like, let's say...
They don't get touring.
let's say I write a big hit for an artist, and this breaks the artist, and it's like, you know, their whole tour is practically named after it and everything. It's like, you know, I'm sort of beginning to be of a mind like, okay, if that happens the next time around, I should get a piece of, like, you know.
Yeah, the tour's called Simply the Best.
Exactly.
And your song broke the record. And without that song, there's no touring. There's no Perfume line.
Exactly.
There's no lip syncing and dance tour.
And at the moment, unless, you know, I speak up and say that, you don't get shit.
Yeah, you don't give a fuck, you know. And
I mean,
then
basically, songwriters work for free.
Yeah.
And it used to be, you used this term before, which is a term that I use. I didn't mind so much because I think, okay, I'll make it on the back end. I'm not going to get anything up front. But you're going to sell 10 million records, hopefully, because I would try and target big artists as well as unknown artists. I mean,
absolutely.
It's, not, you know,
it's all about a hit. You know, it gets in the right person. Fuck
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, in some ways, it's actually more rewarding when it is an unknown artist and you help them to become, you know, successful and famous. But so I'd be happy because I get it on the back end. Well, there is no back end now.
Nope.
You know? And
yeah.
So
let's before I cut you out of here, how do you write lyrics? To me, they were the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because you have to
really get in a cerebral kind of headspace.
You have these measures of time, which are verses, pre-choruses, and choruses, which now they've eliminated pre-choruses. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
if you listen,
I know. I talk
crazy.
about that all the time.
If you listen to country music now, it just comes on. It goes like, I met my girl at a farm. We went to a dance last night. We kissed. It was far out her sky.
Yeah.
It was a sun in her eyes. You know, there's no pre-chorus.
Yeah.
It just goes straight to the hook.
I know.
It's weird. It almost sounds like when they're advertising a record back in the day, you get fire in her eyes, and they just play that. That's what it's like.
It's sort of like, don't Boris, get to the chorus, you know.
That's
Again,
it.
it's like,
do you skip pre-choruses now, and how do you write lyrics?
No, I still write pre-choruses.
Okay, so how do you write them?
But and sometimes I don't. It really depends on the tune.
Me too, but I'm just saying it's funny.
I usually like to come up with a title for something.
Really?
Yeah.
You write titles down and then and gear around that?
I have a master list of titles that I go to. And then I'll just, because I'm basically a musician first, I'll write like the bulk of the music, or at least the chorus or something that, sometimes it's a verse. It depends whatever comes out of my fingers. I mean, I don't have any set way, you know. But usually I find that the verse is sort of sets it up and tells the story, and you can be sort of more artistic.
Of course. The verse can be aloof.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to be something that is spelled out. The chorus has to be very, very clear.
Totally.
That's where the hook comes in. You know, if you have to sit there and go, okay, where's the chorus? Or let's say, and I've been experiencing this with people that are applying to my class, part of the registration process is they have to audition. They have to send me 3 songs of what they're doing.
Wow.
And they need a recommendation letter because it's in my home studio, you know.
Yep.
Don't want to let like a psycho axe murderer into my house.
Yeah, right.
But it's interesting, and I listen to the songs, and that's where they don't get. Okay, you got to the chorus, but what are you saying? I have no idea what the. You know, I want to know what the name is. I want it to be obvious what the name of the. You know,
or it's too cluttered, too many words. It's just like joke writing. You got
too many chords.
Yeah, too many chords.
You know?
Also there's weird chords that never work in choruses. You need it to lift. You can't go down out of the
or some songs need bridges, some don't. But it can't have like nonstop vocals through the whole song. And sometimes people do that. It's like, hey, come up for air. You know?
Yeah,
a chance to appreciate it when you come back in.
I heard a song recently, someone's new song. Like, I think it was the new Steven Tyler country song. It had no breaks. It was just steamrolling right through.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was terrible.
Yeah,
because
it sounds like AEROSMITH, and they threw some country.
They just threw fiddle on it. It was like,
but it's not even like, you know. He didn't even write the song. He got like some really.
I saw that. He went
successful writer. So I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be really badass. And then when it came on, I was like, really?
Yeah, it's not, it's not, I mean, I think that he could write a great country song. because he writes in a country kind of tongue-in-cheek lyric-wise.
Exactly.
And then you get the right dudes, like if he had fucking, some guys, some more outlaw country guys, then you're on. But if you're going for that Singer and the Hootie and the Blowfish style country who writes fucking monster tunes, then you need to figure out how to write a monster tune.
I think that the problem with even well-known writers sometimes is they don't put enough time into the lyrics, and so they kind of write esoteric stuff, and you don't even really understand what the hell they're singing about, and you kind of cut people off when you do that. You want to.
It has to be layman.
You want to hit them in the heart with something that resonates, and you go, "Fuck! I never heard it said that way. That is so cool." And when you're singing along, you're like you've got them. Yeah,
and it's funny because like "You Better Be Good to Me" was a perfect thing for Tina. She didn't even write it. But that's when the planets aligned because you wrote a great chorus. You better be good to me, because I just got rid of Ike Turner, and he was a fucking mean motherfucker. So it's killer lightning in a bottle,
Right, exactly.
Well, when is your master class?
I'm doing them 2 times. They're a week long each. And so one is in July, like July 12th to 18th. And the second one's in August.
And where do you do them? At your house?
I'm doing it at my studio.
How many students?
I'm not going to have more than 10 because I want to really devote my attention. It's going to be really special. It's not for everybody. It's not cheap.
How much is it?
Well, go to my site. You'll see all the information.
Well, I don't want
to scare everybody off. I will say this, though.
Yeah.
ASCAP writers and BMI writers get a 10% discount. And if you're a student at MI, I'm going to give them a $1,000 discount.
Wow. So. $1,000. So it's going to be up there. I love you.
Well, it's like I said, it's a master class. It's not a beginner's class.
Look, you wrote a shitload of hits. If I could go and pay Louis C.K. some money.
Exactly.
And get inside his head. He's not going to teach me stuff, but just be able to ask stuff for a couple hours.
Just the experience with Louis C.K. I would pay for it.
I'm just saying, it's just shit. You when you learn business from like Louis C.K. I'm not talking about joke writing and stuff. I'm talking about like, watch out when you're in America. This is going to happen to you. This happened to me. This is how TV works. This is how writing works for films. This is how I direct and shit. You would go, I'm in, Yeah,
I mean, even if you got like out of a whole week thing, there were like maybe 5 really deep things that actually made you become a better, well, in this case, songwriter. Plus, I'm willing to share like some of my connections, and if I think someone's really talented, I'll make an introduction.
Yeah, or maybe do some demos with them.
Well, I'm going to. Yeah. Everybody gets to walk out of there after having recorded, and they're going to have, it won't be a big production.
Yeah, whatever, but it's a song that they worked on in the workshop.
Exactly. I mean, I've already had, applicants where I've listened to their songs, and I already know what can make them better. I already hear it.
Yeah, that's great, right?
Yeah. And so I think there's a value to that, because if I can show you this with one song, then maybe when you go off, you'll do that with all your songs, and then maybe you'll start getting covers and having a career. There's a lot of songwriters out there that have this fantasy of being a songwriter, but they've never had any success, and they're just writing in their bedrooms. Maybe this will actually get them to that next level. Yeah. So in that way, it's worth. There's no price you could put on that.
Maybe Kiss should sign up for your master writing.
They absolutely should. But I don't know if they would qualify.
That is so great, right? Like if you actually had a big star show up, like Britney Spears should come down and sign up for this fucking class. Yeah. There's no dancing in the class.
I don't know if they're necessarily teachable.
I know. It's great. I'm glad you came down. Thank you so much.
This was so much fun.
Your website, hollyknight.com. And then you can see her at my show. She's always there.
When are you doing
I'm on every night.
Every night?
Yeah.
You're kidding. Can I come down like this weekend?
Anytime. Oh, this weekend I'm in Brea. You want to come? It's awesome.
Where's
Brea. It's like 40 minutes away, but you should see that because I do 30 and
really?
At the Brea Improv. Huge, beautiful room.
I love comedy. Who's your favorite comedian?
C.K., Burr, Pryor, Ian Edwards, who else? I mean, there's so many great guys now, you know?
Yeah.
CK I just love because he is not only a comedian, but I love his TV show.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
And then Maron, Mark Maron, absolutely is on the top 3 list because I love what he's about. He is the king of podcasting, and his jokes are smart, and everything he is off stage and on stage are the same. They're real as fuck. So I love Maron. You know, just there's great guys out there, you know?
Yeah.
But I would say those guys, CK, Burr,
I like
Maron.
Eddie Izzard, too.
Yeah. There you go. There's just
Death
great,
or cake.
yeah, there's great guys out there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And there you go, guys. Thanks for tuning in.